So general population, this is probably going to be the majority of your clientele, your patients or students that come in. General population, they just want to get fit. They want to be able to play their sport on the weekend, golf, tennis, whatever it may be. So in a typical, when you're dealing with general population, you're dealing with those specific people who are at a desk all day long. And when you're at a desk all day long and you're on the phone all day long, you're in this position with the shoulder up, right? Head comes forward. You're sitting at a desk all day. You're not paying attention to your posture. Your shoulders around. So these are the common things that you're going to see dealing with general population. Whether you're dealing with general population or a professional athlete, you're still going to focus on the mobility stuff first. Before you do any kind of kettlebell deadlifts or any barbell training or any bodyweight training or anything you have that you want to use in your session, you have to clear up the mobility first. Because if they have better mobility in the shoulders and the T-spine, they're going to be able to execute what you want them to do in a very safe, efficient manner. So the Indian Club is an excellent tool for the general population because, again, going back to these circular patterns with using the club, just getting them into these positions, they're going to feel like their shoulders are moving again, and it's probably something they haven't felt in a very long time. You're getting them to stand upright. Most of the time when you see people walking around, they already have poor posture. They're not standing with their shoulders back and paying attention to how they're moving. So, or think of this way. What do most people use every day? They're on their phones. So what is their head posture? Their head's down like this, shoulders around it. Anything that we can do to get them out of that posture, but also pay attention to their breathing and where they are in space, or what we call proprioceptive awareness, that's where the club comes in. I can give general population people that come into our door a single club or two clubs, and they can start moving into these ranges of motion where they start to make their shoulders alive again. And if I can get my head into a better position instead of this, my breathing is going to improve at the same time. Other things to think about with general population is if you have kids, how you pick up something in your day-to-day activities. Most general population people that you deal with, they don't move very well, or they were never taught how to move well. So they pick up something like this with a rounded back, or they're rotating when they shouldn't be. So all of these things can be helped with giving them an Indian Club, because what they're going to start doing is, because they're paying so much attention to detail when you go over this with them, they're going to start doing the same thing when they pick up their kid, or when they pick up a bag of groceries, or if they're doing something on their day-to-day activities that they need to be mindful of. So no matter what it is, because of the Indian Club and because of the details that you're going to provide in the session with the Indian Club, they're going to start paying more attention to how they carry themselves throughout their day. When they're on their phone, they may think about this and stand more upright. And again, all of this stuff is just going to help you progress quicker. When you have an elderly person come to your training session, what do you typically see with someone who's elderly? What you typically see is they're hunched over from the waist, they can't get fully erect, their shoulders are rounded, and their neck comes forward. All of these elements combined have poor posture. These develop into health issues down the road. So how do we correct that? When they're in a session with you, the Indian Club is an excellent tool to get them to stand more upright, to pay attention to where their shoulders are in relation to their body, and to be able to take their neck going from here to get taller and able to stack all their joints on top of one another. How do we do that? Just get the Indian Club in their hand. If you can get the Indian Club in their hand and you start showing them in very slow motion these circular patterns, what's going to happen is, in order for them to get the club into position, whether you're going inside out or outside in, they have to get upright. They have to lose this position here. They have to get their hips under them. They need their shoulders on top of their hips, and they need to move their head back. So they will figure out a way to be able to do that and be able to move the club efficiently. Now, I'm not looking for perfection in these circular patterns. What I'm looking for is that they're paying attention to how they're standing and how they're moving their elbow and their shoulder. And what you'll start to see over a few sessions is you'll start to see them pay more attention to how they're standing. You will see a difference with their head position. You will see a difference with their shoulder position. And over time, their posture will change when you use Indian clubs. So when you're using Indian clubs on a regular basis in their sessions, every single session they should have a club in their hand. When they're doing this repetitive motion, this circular pattern, will start to take their body position from this rounded position, head forward, to a more upright position, shoulders back. So, but the key is repetition. So you have to be using the Indian clubs in every session. It doesn't mean that you're taking a half hour out of your session and you're just swinging Indian clubs the whole half hour. What I would do is I would sprinkle the Indian club in during your session. Maybe you do 5-minute warm-up with Indian clubs. Maybe you do it in between other sets and reps of something else that you're doing, so that they have to bring their attention back to how they're standing and how they're using these patterns. So in a typical elderly person, they're normally afraid to do anything overhead because they feel like they can't do this motion, right? And some of them may not be able to, but that's where the Indian club comes in, is that I can take that person and the ranges of motion that the Indian club provides, and I can figure out where their range of motion is for that individual person. So I'm not looking for this perfectly round circle. It may be more like this. But all I care about is that this motion is something that has been very foreign to them and they're not used to doing. So if I can get them into these circular patterns, they start getting more confident, they start changing the way they walk around, and that's where the change starts to occur. But it needs to be done every session so that they're used to it and they're paying attention to it and they're mindful of it. So what I'm trying to do in this circular pattern of the inside-out pattern, let's take as an example. When I'm in this position, this circular pattern is allowing the wrist, the elbow, and the shoulder all to work at the same time. So having all three elements and getting the elbow in this position. So if I'm in this position here, I'm actually putting the scapula in a very safe, strong position where it should be. So if I were to do this with the club and just let my arm fall, notice where my shoulder position is. So most of us, or typically an elderly person, is here. So if I have them hold their hand behind their head and then I let them just let the arm fall, you'll notice my posture totally changed, because that's where the scapula wants to be. And because of our activities and our poor posture, it's not always there. So the Indian club provides that opportunity for the scapula to sit nicely where it needs to be. And at the same time, you get to incorporate the shoulder, elbow joint, and the wrist joint, and the grip all in the same action.